Hello there, my sleep fellows. Tonight, we gently open the door to a forgotten corner of Hogwarts, a place where magic hums not through spells or potions, but through soft, lingering notes of music, notes that seem to drift on their own, echoing through time and memory. This tale isn't loud or wild. It doesn't gallop through forests or race down secret corridors. No, this is a gentle story, the kind you might find tucked between pages of an old book left on a windowsill, or hiding behind a velvet curtain in a quiet classroom no one uses anymore. You see, Hogwarts is full of magic, of course. Everyone knows that. But not all of it glitters or glows. Some of it sings, some of it waits in silence, some of it simply listens. And this story is about that kind of magic. It begins at the close of a day, one of those dusky evenings when the sun has just dipped behind the forbidden forest and the sky turns a sleepy lavender. The castle's turrets cast long, sleepy shadows across the grounds, and the Great Lake ripples with the last golden reflections of the day. Inside the castle, the warmth of candlelight flickers in the tall windows. The corridors echo faintly, with the sound of footsteps fading toward dormitories. Suits of armor settle into stillness, and the portraits begin to hush one another, whispering good nights with little yawns. But somewhere, far from the bustling great hall and the clatter of dishes being cleared away, there's a room. It's not often spoken of. It doesn't appear on the Marauder's map. It has no password, no enchanted doorway, and yet it exists. A wooden door, dusty, simple, set into the stone along a curved hallway near the astronomy wing, where very few students ever venture late at night. Upon the door is carved a single symbol, a harp surrounded by stars. And if you stood beside that door long enough, just as the castle begins to sleep, you might hear it, a melody. Soft, slow, and hauntingly beautiful. Now, before we tiptoe closer, if you enjoy stories like this, gentle tales woven from magic, memory, and a little mystery, feel free to follow along or simply stay a little longer. There's no need to rush. This world welcomes you just as you are. Now close your eyes if you'd like. Let the warmth of candlelight flicker behind your lids. Let the cool stone of the hallway settle beneath your feet. Tonight, we begin with a whisper of music. And who knows, perhaps if you listen closely, you'll hear it too. Luna Lovegood. Most students knew her as the girl who wore radish earrings and read the Quibbler upside down. But tonight, she wasn't doing either. Tonight, she walked alone through the softly echoing corridors of Hogwarts, her wand gently glowing at her side like a sleepy firefly. She had a dreamy look in her eyes, as always, but there was something else too. A kind of quiet curiosity, as if she were listening for something just beyond the edge of hearing. She was returning from the library, not because she had homework to finish, but because she had been helping Madam Pince sort a stack of forgotten music scrolls, parchments so delicate they curled at the edges like old leaves. Luna had been humming to herself as she worked, unaware that one of those melodies would follow her all the way back to Ravenclaw Tower. Only, she never made it there. Halfway up the staircase leading to the 5th floor, she heard it. A single floating note. It drifted through the corridor like a feather in the wind, soft, silver, and terribly sad. Luna stopped, tilted her head, and smiled faintly. "That's not the wind," she whispered to herself, and so she followed it. But Luna wouldn't wander Hogwarts alone tonight. Up in the Gryffindor common room, Hermione Granger sat cross-legged near the fire, reading one of her older books, Magical Melodies of the Forgotten Ages. It was a curious thing. She hadn't planned to read it. In fact, she didn't remember pulling it from the shelf. But there it was on her lap, open to a chapter titled The Vanished Composer of Hogwarts. She blinked at the page, then she heard it too. The same note, a low, echoing hum, like a lullaby played from behind a distant wall. Hermione closed the book slowly and stood. Something was happening. Not dangerous, no, but strange, and somehow very old. She made her way out of the common room, clutching the book as if it might answer the question her heart hadn't fully formed. Meanwhile, a little below, near the grand staircase, Neville Longbottom sat quietly beside a potted moonlace flower he had been caring for all term. It bloomed only at night, its petals glowing pale blue in the moonlight. But tonight, it glowed a little brighter than usual. As Neville leaned in, he heard something, a tune, faint and sweet, like a music box playing underwater. He stood up, almost forgetting his shoes, and wandered toward the sound. 3 students, each from a different place, each hearing the same melody, each guided not by urgency, but by something softer, something like wonder, and somewhere deep in the castle, beneath a floor few students ever explored. The music room waited, the melody waited, and for the first time in many years, so did someone else. The corridors of Hogwarts had always held secrets. Whispered tales hidden in the shadows, paintings that spoke in hushed tones when no one was near, and staircases that led somewhere else if you simply waited long enough. But tonight, the castle seemed quieter than usual, as if it too were holding its breath. Luna's footsteps echoed softly as she moved deeper into the corridor, following the sound that had caught her attention moments ago. It wasn't a sound she recognized, at least not in any ordinary way. It wasn't part of a known melody, nor was it the sort of magical hum she might hear from a creature or charm. No, this sound was different. It felt lonely, as if it had been waiting a very long time to be heard. She reached a landing where the walls curved slightly inward, forming an alcove that rarely received much attention. The torches on the walls flickered low, as if the flames were gently bowing in the presence of something more ancient. And then, just beyond the aceway, the melody swelled again. Only this time, it was clearer, a soft sequence of 3 descending notes, like someone running their fingers across a harp, but with no strings in sight. Luna paused. The stone beneath her feet felt warm, as though the music itself had seeped into the floor. "Hello," she called gently, not loudly. Luna was never one to startle the dark. "I heard you." No reply, but the melody came again. Far away, Hermione turned the corner of a narrow hallway she had never noticed before. It shouldn't have existed, not on this floor, but here it was, draped in a faint golden mist. She held the book close to her chest as she stepped inside, and the pages rustled of their own accord, opening not where she had left off, but near the back. There, written in ink that shimmered faintly blue, were the words, "Music written in memory always finds its way home." She whispered the line aloud, "Music written in memory." At that very moment, the note echoed again. This time, she could almost hear words tucked inside it, not in English, but something older, a language that spoke more to the heart than to the mind. Meanwhile, Neville had wandered into a small greenhouse passage tucked behind the staircase, one used only by herbology professors. Vines crept along the ceiling in patterns that shimmered with dew, and the moonlace flower in his hand began to glow brighter. The tune tugged at him, not with urgency, but with something like longing. He felt it inside his chest, like the way one remembers a dream they didn't know they'd had. At the end of the passage stood a door he'd never seen. It looked like it had been carved from driftwood, worn and weathered, yet pulsing faintly with a kind of hidden light. No knob, no keyhole, just a small carving of a treble clef glowing in time with the melody. Neville stepped closer and raised his hand. The moment his fingers brushed the carving, a soft click echoed, not mechanical, but harmonic, like a chord resolving in a long-forgotten song. The door melted away into mist. Back on the 5th floor, Luna's path had brought her to a wall of mirrors, decorative panels often ignored, but now one of the mirrors shimmered faintly, revealing a faint outline of a door within its glass. Not a door to another room, but one that led inward, as if the mirror reflected not just the hallway, but a memory. Luna smiled to herself. "You're hiding something," she said kindly, placing her palm against the cool glass. "It's all right. I won't break the silence." The mirror rippled under her touch. Hermione, Neville, and Luna all stepped through separate doorways, yet arrived in the same place, the music room. It wasn't a grand hall or a stage. It wasn't gilded with chandeliers or velvet curtains. No, this room was quiet, small, wooden floors polished by time, instruments arranged not for performance but for comfort, harps resting in corners, violins propped like sleeping pets, and a piano at the center dusted by candlelight. And sitting there on the bench was someone, a boy. He looked about their age, though his robes were not quite like theirs. They were similar in shape, but the crests were faded, and the hem of his cloak shimmered with a strange dusting of stardust and parchment. His hair was curled slightly, his eyes closed, and his fingers hovered above the piano keys, never quite touching, but almost. Hermione stepped forward first. Who are you?" The boy didn't answer with words. Instead, he pressed a single key, the same note that had called them all, and then quietly he whispered, "I've been waiting." Neville looked around the room. Where is this place?" The boy smiled softly. "This is the place Hogwarts forgot, but music remembered." Luna tilted her head. "Are you a ghost?" He looked at her kindly. Not exactly. I am what remains of a melody, a memory someone left behind. Hermione frowned, clutching the book. Are you from the chapter? The vanished composer. The boy nodded. Long ago, there was a student who played music so gentle it put sleepless minds at ease. He composed lullabies for the walls, harmonies for the hallways. But when he left, the songs stayed, waiting, forgotten, until someone would hear them again. Neville stepped closer. And now, the boy looked down at his hands. Now that you've heard it, you've awakened the rest. The piano began to play on its own, not loud, never loud, but soft and golden, like a breeze through the astronomy tower. One by one, the instruments in the room stirred. A harp sighed, a flute murmured, and above them, along the curved ceiling, spectral notes began to float like fireflies, musical runes weaving spells of quiet peace. The boy stood. The room will only appear to those who need to rest, who need to feel held, even when no one is watching. You heard the music because you carry a gentle kind of magic. Luna stepped beside the piano, so the melody wasn't lost. No, said the boy, beginning to fade, his body becoming part of the air. It was simply waiting. Hermione's eyes glistened. Will we remember this place? The boy's smile lingered as the piano played its last note. Always, but only when you listen closely, in between the walls, beneath the hush of the night. And then, he was gone, but the music room remained. A new door appeared, one that would always open when quiet hearts wandered through the castle seeking peace. A sanctuary for music, for memory, for the kind of magic that doesn't need spells or wands, just a single note, played gently, heard by those who needed it most. The platform had always been a place of quiet anticipation, even when filled with the joyful chaos of children saying their goodbyes, steam curling into the sky like silver dreams, and the sudden jolt of magic as the train departed. But tonight, under the gentle hush of candlelight and rain softly pattering against the roof, platform 934 was utterly still, as if it, too, was listening. Harry, Hermione, and Ron had already crossed through the archway, standing once more in the realm between realms. The scarlet engine of the Hogwarts Express sat dormant. No smoke, no conductor, just stillness. And then, something new, something none of them had ever seen. Hermione was the first to speak. The barrier, she whispered, walking slowly toward the stone arch. It's glowing. Indeed, it was. Faint blue runes shimmered across the bricks, like ink revealed under moonlight. Harry stepped closer, his wand slipping instinctively into his hand. He wasn't afraid, not exactly, just prepared. Ron, for once, didn't make a joke. His voice was low and careful. That's not normal, right? Definitely not, Hermione replied. As they watched, the runes pulsed once, twice, then vanished. In their place, a new crack formed along the wall, vertical, smooth, and without mortar, like a hidden seam being revealed. Before any of them could react, the crack widened. With a soft, sighing sound, a narrow door opened where no door had ever been. It revealed a staircase spiraling downward, faintly lit by orbs of silvery light. that hovered midair like sleepy fireflies. A breeze flowed out, cool and damp, like the breath of deep earth. Something ancient had just awakened. Hermione, always drawn to mystery, glanced at the boys. We should go see." Harry nodded, though he could feel the thrum of magic in his bones now, older than Hogwarts, deeper than the wards, unfamiliar even to someone who had once held the Elder Wand. "Stay close," he said softly, and together they stepped inside. The staircase wound deep beneath King's Cross, far below the Muggle train tunnels and mechanical systems. The air grew cooler with each step, but not unpleasant. The lights guided them gently, adjusting their glow as they descended. No one spoke. The silence didn't feel ominous, it felt sacred. When the stairs ended, they stepped into a long hallway carved from smooth obsidian stone. The floor was inlaid with constellations, stars glowing faintly beneath their feet. The walls shimmered, not with light, but with movement, faint echoes of people passing through, as though memories lived within the very stone. "It's like we're walking through time," Hermione breathed, eyes wide. Suddenly, ahead of them, a chamber opened. It was small and circular, with a raised dais at the center, and upon that dais sat an object unlike any they'd seen. A massive book, bound in a leather that shimmered with iridescence. The tome pulsed gently, as if breathing. Its cover was blank. No title, no name, no clue as to what lay within. And yet, all three of them felt it, that unmistakable pull of destiny. Ron took a step back. "Yeah, this feels like the part in the story where things go really wrong." But Hermione, eyes shining, had already approached the book. She hovered her hand above it, not yet touching. "I think this is a record." "A record of what?" Harry asked. She looked up at him, and for a moment her voice trembled, not in fear, but awe. "Of everyone who's ever passed through Platform 9-3 Core." Harry blinked. "That's impossible." "Is it?" she replied. "This place is a junction, not just of trains, but of magical intent. Every footstep, every wish, every goodbye and hello, all of it imprints something." As if in response, the book flared softly with light. Hermione opened it, slowly, reverently. The pages turned themselves, one after another, each filled with moving ink, sketches of faces, short notes in cursive, glimpses of people boarding the train over the centuries. And then the book stopped on a page. Blank, except for one entry, one name. Alba Greaves, 1943. Never returned. Beneath it, a single line, still waiting beneath. The air shifted, the chamber dimmed, a deep, humming sound echoed faintly from somewhere below. Hermione whispered, "There's more." Another doorway revealed itself at the edge of the chamber, smaller, made of dark iron. Without hesitation, they stepped through. This corridor was colder, and the glow here was tinged with blue. The air felt heavier, more silent than silence itself. It was as if sound didn't dare intrude. At the end stood a mirror, tall, ancient, its frame made of carved stone that looked almost like roots wrapped in a spiral. But it wasn't a mirror. It was a window. Harry stared into it and saw none of his reflection, but a girl, pale, with long hair, dressed in a Hogwarts uniform from decades past. She was sitting in the corner of a darkened room, knees hugged to her chest. Her eyes met Harry's, and though she couldn't see him, he knew in his heart this was Alba Greaves. Ron's voice cracked. "Is that a ghost?" "No," Hermione whispered, stepping closer. "She's trapped somewhere deep in the magical folds beneath this platform." The mirror shimmered again, and this time they heard her, faintly. "I missed the last train," Hermione gasped. She must have wandered into one of the temporal folds. Harry's brow furrowed. "Temporal?" Hermione explained slowly. "Places where magic and time twist. They exist in older magical locations, usually hidden or sealed, but something about Platform 934, maybe it wasn't always fully anchored in time." "She's stuck," Ron said, his voice somber. Hermione nodded. "She never got on the train, and now she's waiting, still." A sense of grief settled over them, not just for Alba, but for every soul who had ever lingered in forgotten magic, for those whose footsteps had echoed into silence. Harry stepped forward and pressed his hand gently to the mirror. "I'm sorry," he whispered, and something miraculous happened. The mirror warmed, light glowed softly around its edges. The girl blinked, and for the first time smiled. Hermione gasped. "Harry, you've anchored her. What does that mean?" "She's not lost anymore. Your magic. It's connected her to memory, to story. That's enough." The mirror faded. The girl was gone, but the chamber didn't feel sad anymore. It felt peaceful. As they turned to go, the book on the dais whispered shut, and the lights began to rise along the hallway behind them, guiding them upward toward the platform once more. When they emerged, the barrier closed softly behind them. The glow had faded. Everything looked as it always had. But they knew Platform 934 was more than a station. It was a keeper of stories, a memory of magic, and tonight they had helped one of those stories find its end. When the trio returned to the surface, Platform 934 looked almost unchanged. The polished tracks, the silent scarlet engine, and the familiar iron arches above. Yet something deep within the air had shifted. The platform now felt attentive, like it was watching, waiting, holding its breath. None of them spoke right away. The events below, the discovery of Alba Greaves, the mirror of lost time, the whispering book, lingered in their thoughts like fading echoes. But as they moved slowly across the quiet station, the silence seemed to press inward again, urging them forward. "There's more here," Hermione finally murmured, gently running her hand along the worn bricks of the wall near the ticket stall. "We've uncovered one layer, but this place has so many." Harry nodded thoughtfully. "It's like each time we learn something, it opens a new door." Ron frowned and looked over his shoulder. "Or a trap. Or a puzzle," Hermione corrected gently, a small smile returning to her lips. Platform 934 has always been a junction, but maybe it's also a gateway. As if answering her words, a sudden breeze swept across the platform, not cold or biting, but curious, like a draft from an open door deep underground. It carried with it the scent of parchment and starlight and something else, the faint aroma of spell ink and old stone. The trio exchanged a glance. Then, without a word, they followed it. The wind drew them toward the far end of the platform, a place even the most curious first years rarely wandered. The stone here was darker, aged differently, with streaks of silver woven through the cracks like veins. The train tracks split, one leading to the main line and another, thinner rail vanishing into the shadows of a sealed archway. "No one ever goes this far," Ron whispered. "I always thought this was just storage space." Hermione stepped closer. "It's a magical seal. Look." In the center of the archway, barely visible unless you knew where to look, was a sigil, a spiral of stars surrounding a circle carved into the stone. It pulsed faintly, responding to their presence. Hermione took a slow breath. "This is a recognition ward." "Of what?" Harry asked. "Blood, memory, presence, sometimes even longing." Harry moved closer, letting his fingers hover over the seal. It felt warm to the touch, not like stone, but like sunlight stored in ancient walls. The sigil shimmered, then the stones beneath it began to ripple, bending inward, and the archway slowly unfolded like a curtain parting after centuries. What lay beyond wasn't a room or even a tunnel. It was something far stranger, a suspended bridge of light. The path stretched ahead over a chasm of swirling mist. Stars hung above and below, as if they had stepped between sky and sky. The bridge wasn't made of stone or wood, but of woven beams of moonlight and memory. Hermione's voice was hushed. "This is impossible." Ron rubbed his eyes. "We're floating." Harry stepped forward. The bridge held firm beneath his feet, though it shimmered faintly with each movement. "We have to see where it leads." So they walked, slowly, carefully, hearts thudding gently against the hush. As they moved deeper, the air changed again, softer, like the space between dreams. All sound faded, but the faint rustle of robes and the quiet hum of magic all around them. And then, far ahead, they saw it, a floating island of stone, no larger than the Hogwarts Great Hall, suspended in this space of stars and fog. In its center stood a single structure, a tall tower, carved from the same dark stone as the hallway below. But this tower had no doors, no windows, only a narrow slit of light running from base to top, glowing with soft silver pulses like a heartbeat. They stepped onto the island. The moment they did, the bridge behind them vanished. Ron panicked. "Well, that's comforting." Hermione raised her wand, whispering, "Lumos." Nothing happened. Harry tried as well. Lumos. Still, the wands remained dim. Hermione frowned. "We're in a space beyond standard magical channels. Wand magic might not work here." The trio approached the tower. The slit of light was just wide enough for them to squeeze through, one by one, cautiously. Inside, the world changed again. There was no ceiling, no floor, just space, swirling with gentle lights, like stars moving in slow dances. In the center hovered a giant hourglass, its glass rippling like water, its sand glowing with hues of gold and sapphire. Instead of falling downward, the sand moved sideways, from past to present, from memory to possibility. A quiet voice, not spoken, but felt, filled the air. Time has many corridors. Some are walked, others are forgotten, but here the platform remembers. The hourglass tilted. A droplet of sand fell from one side and floated before Harry. As he touched it, the entire tower responded. Images bloomed around them, translucent like ghosts, yet sharp with emotion. They saw a young girl in 1892 waving at a train that never arrived. A boy from 1927 who cried in secret because his parents couldn't afford his second-year books. A witch in 1964 who waited hours because her brother had missed the train and she wouldn't leave him. All of them, here, all of them, remembered. Ron's voice cracked. They all left something behind. Hermione blinked slowly, awed. This isn't just a platform, it's a sanctuary of stories. Harry stepped forward, feeling the weight of it all. Then maybe we're meant to listen. As the hourglass turned again, another memory unfolded. This time, it was one of themselves. Their first journey to Hogwarts. The awkward smiles, the thrill of the unknown, the bond beginning to form. It shimmered like a ripple across a pond and then faded into the mists. The voice returned, more gentle now. What you leave behind writes its echo. What you remember shapes the magic. The tower began to dim. The slit of light reappeared, now drawing them gently outward. As they stepped through, they found the bridge behind them reformed. The fog parted. The way home was clear. They crossed in silence, carrying something as deep within them, a sense of reverence, a peaceful weight of knowing that Platform 934 was not only a gateway to school, but a vessel of countless forgotten moments, lovingly held and whispered through the bones of its magic. And as they stepped once more onto the familiar stone floor of the platform, the distant sound of a train whistle echoed softly, not real, not quite, but enough to remind them that every time someone vanished into the steam, they were never truly gone. They had simply been remembered. The soft hush of the bridge stayed with them long after they crossed it. Back on the stone platform, the trio stood quietly, gazing back at the place where the magical archway had been. Now, it was simply wall again. No pulse of light, no shimmer of stars, just silent stone beneath the flickering lanterns. Yet in their hearts, they still felt the hum of what they had witnessed, the drifting hourglass, the corridor of suspended memory, the ghosts of untold journeys. Hermione was the first to speak. Her voice was soft, contemplative. We were meant to find that, but maybe not just for ourselves. Harry looked up at the old clock hanging above the platform. It hadn't moved in hours, as if time here obeyed its own quiet rhythm. It's all connected, every student, every departure, every return, and every choice, Ron added, more seriously than usual. Whatever this place is holding, it's asking us to do something with it. The trio moved together now, walking slowly down the length of the platform. Their steps were unhurried, the silence companionable. They were no longer simply exploring. They were listening. They passed the old newsstand, where daily prophets had once stacked in neat rows. Dust now lay undisturbed across its surface, but beneath it, Hermione noticed something. A thin drawer, nearly invisible. She crouched, gently sliding it open. Inside were dozens of folded notes, some so old they crumbled at her touch. Harry knelt beside her. What are they? Hermione unfolded one carefully. The ink was faded, but the handwriting was elegant. If you find this, please tell my sister I'm sorry I didn't say goodbye. Charles H., 1943. More letters followed, quiet, unfinished thoughts, goodbyes that had never been spoken, regrets, hopes, wishes for safe journeys. It was as if the platform had gathered them, every last whisper it had caught in its quiet corners. Ron swallowed, reading a note aloud. I lost my wand somewhere between here and the train. If you find it, let it know I missed it. The three of them smiled gently. The words weren't sad, not truly. They were tender, almost childlike. The platform had always been a place of transit, but also of emotion, and the magic here had remembered it all. As they tucked the notes back with care, the wind returned, not fierce, but curious, circling them gently, drawing them toward another quiet place on the platform. A storage room door, rusted and chained, long forgotten. Harry stepped closer. Do we open it? Hermione ran her hand along the frame. It wants us to. Ron squinted. You get that a lot lately, don't you? Hermione smiled. Yes. With a wave of her wand and a soft alohomora, the chains unlatched, slithering to the floor like sleeping vines. The door creaked open, revealing a small room filled with forgotten trunks, stacked high like silent sentries. But something else was there too, a cabinet standing alone in the center of the room. Unlike the dusty trunks, it was polished, almost new-looking, though no one could have used it in decades. Drawn in by its gentle shimmer, Harry stepped forward and placed a hand on the cabinet. The moment he did, a mirror formed on its surface, not a reflection of their faces, but of their memories, not memories already lived, but paths not taken. Hermione gasped softly. This is a cabinet of possibilities. I've only read about it in theory. What does it do? Ron asked, slightly wary. Hermione turned slowly. It shows you what might have been, if you had chosen differently, if you'd turned left instead of right, if you'd said yes instead of no. Harry's breath caught as he looked into it. There he saw himself, older, in a quiet home, no scar on his forehead, a life where he had never been marked by Voldemort, never known magic. Just a peaceful boy who had grown into a man unknown to the world. Ron stepped forward and saw a version of himself running a joke shop alone, without Fred, without war. He was laughing, free of shadows, his eyes full of mischief. Hermione saw herself teaching at a small muggle school, her wand hidden in a drawer, her voice firm yet kind as she explained literature to students who would never know what she truly was. They each stood there for a long time. Then Harry stepped back. They're beautiful, but they're not us. Ron nodded. It's tempting, but those aren't the paths we chose. Hermione reached for both of them, taking their hands. And that's what matters, isn't it? What we choose. As they left the cabinet behind, the room felt lighter somehow, not sadder, not even nostalgic. Just at peace, back on the platform, They now noticed other details they had missed before, glowing footprints on certain stones, remnants of past travelers. Each step held a faint shimmer, like echoes of students long gone. Some were small, nervous, others bold and quick. One pair of footprints danced in a circle, the magic of young joy still lingering. And now, 3 new sets of footprints joined them. As they walked, the air began to grow warmer, as if the station was smiling. The lanterns brightened subtly, casting a golden hush across the tracks. The choices they had made to explore, to remember, to leave the cabinet unopened were not just theirs. They were part of the platform's magic, and in return, the platform offered one final gift. In the center of the Pescaquet platform, where no bench had ever stood before, there was now a wooden seat. Carved into its back were 3 words, "Stay a while." And so they did. For a long time, Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat side by side in gentle silence. No trains came, no clocks moved. There was only the hum of ancient magic, the comfort of friendship, and the quiet wonder of a place that had always been more than a passageway. And somewhere in the distance, beneath the brick and stone, the hourglass turned once more. The bench was quiet, and for a time, so were they. The kind of stillness that wrapped itself like a blanket, not empty, but full of meaning. The 3 friends sat side by side, the lanterns casting golden halos above their heads, as the secrets of Platform 934 settled around them like falling snow. But then, something subtle changed. A low hum, almost imperceptible, began to rise from beneath the platform. It wasn't mechanical, nor magical in the explosive sense, but ancient, warm, and steady. Like a heartbeat, it pulsed gently beneath the stone tiles, resonating in their chests. Hermione stood slowly. "There's something beneath us." Harry felt it too. Not a danger, but an invitation. Ron raised an eyebrow. Another secret tunnel, then. Or maybe a sleepy basilisk who just wants a cuddle. They all smiled, and the tension, if any, dissolved again into that shared warmth. Hermione's wand emitted a soft beam of light as she swept it across the ground. A section of tile shimmered faintly, and then, without sound, a circular panel began to rise. It wasn't stairs this time, or a ladder, but a floating disc of stone, wide enough for 3. As they stepped on, it gently descended, as if riding on invisible currents of air, downward into the foundation of the station, downward into what had always been hidden. And then the chamber revealed itself. They found themselves standing in a vast, echoing rotunda carved from pale stone, softly lit by floating orbs of light. The walls were engraved with names, hundreds, maybe thousands of them, spiraling upward like constellations. Each name shimmered faintly, like it had been etched not just into stone, but into time. Hermione took a shaky breath. "These are every student who ever passed through here, every witch and wizard who took the train to Hogwarts." Harry stepped closer, running his fingers along a familiar name. Lily Evans, 1971. Ron pointed just beneath it. James Potter, 1971. and on the other side of the chamber, in the fresher stones, Harry Potter, 1991, Hermione Granger, 1991, Ronald Weasley, 1991. The sight stirred something deep in their hearts, a recognition of belonging, of having been part of something greater than themselves, not just the battle against evil, not just their adventures, but the simple act of boarding that train, of becoming a Hogwarts student, of beginning. At the center of the rotunda was a pedestal, and atop it sat an hourglass. But unlike the hourglass from the memory corridor, this one shimmered with silver mist instead of sand. It moved endlessly, flowing upward and downward at once, defying all reason. A timekeeper of moments that had not yet come, and some that never would. Hermione whispered, "It's called the heart glass. It remembers not time, but emotion." Harry felt the weight of it, the magic humming from its core. Then what is this place? And then a voice, not loud, not startling, just gentle, like a breeze across old parchment. It wasn't from a person, but from the chamber itself. Ron swallowed hard, his eyes wide. "It's alive." Hermione nodded, tears brimming. "It's a memorial, a keeper, a witness." They circled the heart glass, each drawn into the hum of its magic. As they moved, the chamber responded. On one wall, a portal shimmered, not a doorway, but a vision. A scene formed before their eyes. Harry, 11 years old, stepping through the barrier with Hagrid, his face full of awe. Then Ron, nervous and cheerful, dragging his luggage while his mother shouted instructions. Hermione, chin lifted, her heart racing though her face stayed calm. Moments they had lived, but viewed now with new softness, from the perspective of the platform. This place, it remembers not just the people, but their hearts, Hermione said, voice shaking. Harry stepped closer to the vision. He saw himself on the day he returned after the war, alone for a moment on the platform, before Ginny appeared and wrapped him in silence and understanding. And then another image, one none of them remembered. It was of them, years in the future, sitting again on this very bench, older, laughing softly, watching a new generation disappear into the train. Ron blinked. "That's us." Hermione's hand found Harry's. "The platform knows our paths. It has always watched." Harry looked around the rotunda, the thousands of names, the silent flowing hourglass, the memories held in its very stones. Then maybe this place is Hogwarts too, just a quieter part of it, the beginning and the end. A new warmth filled the chamber, a final hush that signaled understanding. And then the heart glass pulsed, the voice returned. With that, the floating disc returned. The trio stepped onto it, hearts full, minds quiet. The chamber slowly rose away beneath them, the lights dimming, the stone sealing itself once more with reverent calm. When they emerged, the station looked unchanged, but they weren't. Harry looked down at the platform, now just bricks again, silent and waiting. "You think anyone will believe us?" Hermione smiled. "Not in the way we'd tell it," Ron chuckled. "So, bedtime story then?" Hermione nodded. "Exactly. A gentle one, the kind that lingers." The train station had returned to its gentle slumber. No more glows beneath the floor, No mysterious doors waiting to open, just the stillness of a magical place at rest. The hum of the heart glass was behind them now, and the stone bench beneath Harry, Ron, and Hermione felt cool and familiar once more, like waking from a dream that had whispered truths into their souls. But they did not rush. There was something about the calm here that clung to them, like Platform 934 didn't want them to forget not just what they had seen, but what they had felt. A small, sleepy breeze wandered through the pillars. It ruffled the edge of Hermione's cloak and carried the scent of old parchment and warm soot, as if the walls themselves had secrets still lingering in their folds. Ron sighed softly. You know, I always thought this place was just a weird in-between. Like, not quite Hogwarts, not quite the Muggle world, but it's more, isn't it? Hermione nodded, her eyes distant. It's a memory keeper, a feeling holder, a place of thresholds. Harry didn't speak. He simply looked at the stone beneath his feet, thinking of all the young witches and wizards who had stood right here, hearts pounding with the thrill of their very first journey. He imagined a small girl, wand clutched in her hand, her eyes wide with wonder, a boy waving to his mum with a grin far too big for his face, all of them written into the magic. Eventually, the golden lamplight began to fade, a gentle signal, not rushed, not urgent, that their time here was done for tonight. The three of them stood, brushing off their cloaks and stretching tired limbs. It had been hours, or perhaps only moments. Time in this place flowed with the rhythm of the heart. As they turned to go, the station gave one last gift. From the ceiling above, soft specks of light began to drift downward, like snow, but warmer, glowing faintly. They weren't stars, not quite. They looked like memories, falling gently like feathers. Each one touched the stone floor and vanished. Harry reached for one and watched it disappear on his fingertips. Like stardust, he whispered. Hermione smiled, her voice soft and certain. No, like thank yous. Ron tilted his head. From who? Hermione paused. From those who came before. From the place itself. From Hogwarts. They stepped through the barrier together, and for a heartbeat, it felt like they were walking through something more than brick and enchantment. Like they were stepping out of a story and into the arms of a world that had always waited for them. Back on the Muggle side, the lights were brighter, colder. The world buzzed again with electricity and urgency. Trolleys squeaked, trains came and went, voices echoed in mundane rhythms. But Harry turned back one last time. The wall stood silent, yet he knew, beyond it, the platform still breathed, still held all it had ever known and all it had ever loved. We'll come back, he said. Of course, Hermione replied. Some things you don't leave, not really. Ron chuckled as he adjusted his scarf. Next time, let's bring a snack. Maybe the platform gets hungry too. They all laughed, and the sound felt full, content, like magic echoing off the walls of the real world. And with that, they walked on, side by side, their steps quiet, but their hearts full. The mystery of Platform 934 had not been solved, not in the way one solves a puzzle. It had been revealed, gently, like dawn creeping into an old corridor. And now, with that understanding, they could carry it forward, not to be shouted or proven, but simply known. For some secrets aren't meant to be uncovered, they're meant to be kept safe. Certainly. Below is the final 400-word section. The arches of platform 934 sleep beneath the rustle of passing trains, and the soft glow of lanterns flickers like eyelids growing heavy with dreams. Whatever magic stirred beneath the stone and whispers of old spells, it has settled once more, folded into the hush of night, content to be unseen, yet deeply felt. Harry, Ron, and Hermione have returned to their world, not to loud alarms or grand discoveries, but to the peaceful knowledge that some places in life are meant to be wondered about, not explained, that even in a world of spells and potions, there are corners of quiet enchantment that don't shout to be known. They simply wait until someone listens. Perhaps that's what Platform 934 truly is, not just a train stop or a magical portal, but a gentle reminder that wonder doesn't always come with flashing light or thunder. Sometimes it hums quietly under your feet. Sometimes it rests in the air just before you close your eyes. Sometimes it is the place where old magic waits for you to remember it, softly. So, if you ever find yourself near King's Cross when the station is still and you feel a shiver run up your spine, not of fear, but of recognition, pause for a moment. Breathe in slowly. Listen. You may not see the glow. You may not hear the melody, but the platform will know you're there, and it will remember. Tonight, let that feeling stay with you. Let the stone beneath your feet feel warm, the lantern light gentle on your skin, and the quiet hum of the platform guide you to a place of peace. A place where Hogwarts is always waiting, not just on a map, but in the heart. The journey may have paused here, but the magic, oh the magic, it never ends. Sleep now, with the echo of distant train whistles and the starlit memories of a hidden station. You are safe, you are warm, you are home.